So you obviously have the flag upside down as a symbol. What are you trying to get across with the upside down flag?
For the U.S. flag code, whenever you invert the American flag, it is permissible underneath extreme risk to life and property. And based on what I've witnessed occurring here in Standing Rock, I don't think there's any question whether or not there's risk to life and property here.
And you're retired U.S. Navy. Have you ever seen, domestically, such force used against unarmed people, peaceful people, to protect an inanimate object?
Personally, no. I've never witnessed this caliber of militarization against people. I mean, we've seen it throughout history, through the Civil Rights era, through Ferguson. There's been multiple times throughout our nation's history where we've utilized force like this against people, even though they were peaceful, most of which I saw during the Civil Rights era.
Covering it the last few days, it seems like the police can break laws, freely, and there's no consequences. They're flying overhead without lights. They're standing on top of Army Corps land. They are standing on top of land that ancestors are buried. Why do you think the police are doing this at such force?
Because we've allowed it in this country. That's why it's occurring. The government and big business continues to exploit the citizens of this country, to exploit its resources. And it's because we as citizens have been apathetic to what's going on all around us. We're distracted by so many things that are occurring in this country that don't mean anything. The World Series is super important, but what's more important, a baseball or people? People are more important. And if we as a nation don't stand together, united, then our government will continue to do what they're doing here in Standing Rock.
I was talking to a medic 2 nights ago, and she was recounting her experience during the standoff over here, and she was crying, saying to an officer, aren't you supposed to be protecting me? There seems to be a complete reversal of protection of, again, a pipeline rather than people. Do you think, again, this is about government greed or something else? Because, again, they're unarmed.
Whether or not it's about greed, I don't entirely know. What I do know is what's right in front of my face. And whenever I see the military-style tactics utilized on peaceful people, that is a complete abridgment of First Amendment rights. The ability to express yourself freely without being, I shouldn't be intimidated or scared. Even for me to stand here the way that I do in my uniform, people will frown upon this. I'll be attacked personally for this, and it draws. It makes me concerned for what could happen. But if I don't, I think Martin Luther King Jr. had said it, is that an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And this is an injustice. And I'm not going to stand by as a retired service member who swore to protect the Constitution and their rights, their constitutional rights. So I'm here to continue to protect those for them, like I swore to do for 20 years.
When you hear all of its rhetoric, America is this shining star on a hill, and the beacon of freedom around the world, and then you see things like this. You mentioned Ferguson, the Black Lives Matter movement, police brutality, and now this. Is there a disconnect between the image our politicians like to think of America and what it really is nowadays?
There is an absolute disconnect. Whenever you have an organization like ALEC and legislators and business personnel can have behind-the-door, closed-door meetings away from the general public, hold these meetings and push legislation and vote on that said legislation behind a closed door, and then those legislators go and they push that legislation as though that's something that the people of that state or this country wanted, we got a severe problem. And that's what's occurring in this country, is that big business is in bed with our government. There's no secret about that. And the government profiting off of stealing and destroying our constitutional rights has to stop. And we as American people have to be willing. Standing Rock wasn't necessarily my fight, so to speak. But what is my fight is that these are human beings, these are people, these are citizens of this country that I swore to protect. And I'm going to stand alongside them and fight with them because I see what's occurring here right before my eyes, you know. And there's no better way for me to know and understand what's occurring here than to get in my truck and to drive over here.
And when you look at both the military but also the president, one of the things they swear to protect is against foreign or domestic enemies. I don't think I have to say much more about whether these are domestic enemies. What is President Obama's role in this? Obviously, we know the candidates are dodging the issue.
I haven't had an opportunity to see too much about what President Obama has done. But what I do know is that as a commander-in-chief of this country, he has a responsibility. He swore an oath to that Constitution the same as I did. And you're exactly right. And too many people, veterans included, service members included, they have forgotten about that other piece, against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We always point our eyes outward from our borders, but we never look inward. Our greatest enemies are not overseas. Our greatest enemies are right here.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.